Members of the American Postal Workers Union handle more than 165 billion letters and packages a year. That's about 34 million pounds of mail every day. Ever wonder what this costs you as a taxpayer? Millions? Tens of millions? Hundreds of millions? Not a single cent. The United States Postal Service doesn't run on your tax dollars. It's funded solely by stamps and postage. Brought to you by the men and women of the American Postal Workers Union.
Every time you smoke, there's a toxic mix of over 7,000 chemicals coming for you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Terry, and you're watching Fayetteville Public Television.
Good job.
We are pleased to have with us today independent writer and editing professional Richard S. Drake. What does the S stand for? I'm not supposed to know.
I'd rather not say.
But it is your middle name?
Yes, it is.
All right. We'll leave that with you and your parents. The
I blame
Northwest,
my parents.
the Northwest Arkansas Times once called Richard Fayetteville's Renaissance man. He has been active in alternative print and television journalism during some of the most politically exciting periods of recent Northwest Arkansas history. With insight drawn from employment with such important journals as the Grapevine and the Ozark Gazette, and boy, I miss both of those terribly. Richard has interviewed those on the front lines of this past decade and more major political and social struggles. Among his current pursuits, you can enjoy his writings on the Arkansas Times community blog, Street Jazz. You can find that at arkansastimes.com. He has also served on the City of Fayetteville's Community Access Television Board. He was a fixture there for many years and was producer of CAT's popular on-the-air interview program.
Right.
Now, I started to call it a news magazine, but I guess
No, it's an
the
interview
interview
program.
is more accurate. He also served on the City of Fayetteville's Telecom Board for many years, so he has put in his service to the citizens and City of Fayetteville. Thank you for that. Today, Richard's talk is entitled, appropriately enough, given what I just told you about him, Public Access Television, the Quilt of Community Diversity. I'm going to reach over you and turn off that microphone. Right, Heather Marie? I want to turn that one off. So please join me in welcoming Richard S. We don't know what stands for. Great.
Hi, how are you? Wow, okay. Hi, how are you all today?
Good.
Let me get away from that light. We talked about, I'm glad to see you all here. By the way, I know how many of you all live in Fayetteville, or wherever. I know you do. I know you've seen public access. Now, how many of y'all have seen public access before? Great. I know a lot of you who haven't even seen public access have probably read about it and hear all these dark rumors and legends that you see in newspapers about it. So even if you haven't seen public access, you know about it, or you hear about it. So I want to start by telling you, in the mall, out here go down by the old Dillard's in the mall, there are a lot of quilts. Is it like Community Quilt Project? And I didn't even know about this till years ago. Someone just pointed out to me. But on one of the patches on one quilt is a patch for community access television. And when I was on board in the late 90s, I thought this was really cool because this is so perfect, because what CAT is, or what any public access station is in the community, what we do is show you the diversity of the community. Now, a lot of people come to you and tell you how easy it is to use public access, which I will get to at some point in talk. But what I want to tell you about today is what public access is for you. And just as a viewer, and I started watching public access back in the 1980s. I think 1980 is when it first came on in Fayetteville, in April 1980. And it was Fayetteville Open Channel back in the olden days. And it was on Channel 4, and just had a little tiny little station on Dixon Street. And it was sort of fascinating because all the programming, of course, was produced by all of us. And your standards go from just anybody running around with a camera, or to be quite honest, people in the community, their standards can approximate network standards because we have such good equipment. But it's sort of fascinating to watch people in the community come down and sing a song, or tell a joke, or put on a skit, or do their own talk shows. And I was always fascinated by this. I was particularly fascinated by a man called Peter Harkins in the 80s. He had this wonderful show where he would just sit, and he sat in front of a desk with a typewriter on, because Peter was a writer for many years, and he would take questions from anybody who called in. And that was just really fascinating to watch. And Peter, I don't think Peter ever took any guests, but it was just sort of fascinating to watch, which is, later on sort of how I became involved in public access. But what public access does for all of us is this. When you turn on public access, when you turn on CAT, and you can watch CAT, by the way, on the internet as well, so you don't have to live in Fayetteville or even have cable. You can watch it on the internet. Anywhere in the world, probably except for Iraq, North Korea, China, but you can watch it anywhere in the world and watch the programming. What CAT does is show you how other people in the community live. And it shows you viewpoints and ideas and thoughts that you may not otherwise have known about. It shows you, and really because we talk about diversity, and CAT is one of the few things that the City of Fayetteville funds which truly is diverse, because when you open the doors in the morning, you have everybody come to the doors from all races, creeds, beliefs. It doesn't matter how much money they make. It doesn't matter their marital status. Everybody comes in, uses the station, and everybody works together as a team. Even though people may believe different things, everybody reaches out and helps each other. And I think when you turn on TV and you see what's on television, and you see, suppose someone's concerned about poverty in part of Fayetteville. Like you may not know about that until you turn on TV and you see that. Or someone's concerned about, say, gay issues, one side or another. You turn on TV and someone's talking about that. Or someone's talking about political issues. For 30 years, public access in Fayetteville has served as the region's only real, I'm going to the whole long line of words here, the only real regional arts, entertainment, public affairs, music, religion, comedy, what have you channel. It's everything. And it's only limited by the imagination of the people who come down to public access. So, and when you watch it, the beautiful thing is that most of it is put on by your friends and neighbors. And when you watch it, I mean, sometimes the quality is, the only two standards are basically you have to be able to see it and hear it, which you can say, oh, well, that means just a bunch of nonsense on public access. But sometimes you're watching stuff and you go, that must have been made in New York City, But no, it wasn't. It was made right here in Fayetteville. And the equipment is so easy to use that it sort of scares people because they think they can't use it. Now, what I'd like to do right now is show you just a brief program, 11 minutes, of some short highlights of stuff you can see on CAT.
He's almost 7 now, and he weighs about 150 pounds, and he's just my big old boy is what he is.
He's a daddy's boy.
Yeah.
Now Sky is our little old lady.
This is Sky, the Dalmatian-looking one here.
She does. A lot of people ask us if she's a Dalmatian. If you put her next to one, you can tell the difference. But
Because she's about twice as big.
yeah.
Now I know what's wrong. Now I know what's wrong with Penn State fencing team. You went to Penn State.
work.
Yeah, you bet. You've already lost 3 pounds. Oh, nice. There was an action, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. I hope you got that on the camera.
We're going to replay that one.
It'll be on the highlight films tonight. Eh? Okay. A few more. Hey, one for me.
Land in Dixieland, where misty morning, look away, look away, look away.
Every slave who shall harbor or conceal any slave who shall have absented or deserted the service of his master, overseer, or employer shall be punished by stripes not exceeding 25 by the order of any justice of the peace.
Some of the slaves ran away, but they would catch them and bring them back, you know. Put the dogs after them. The dogs would run them up and bathe them just like a coon or possum. Sometimes the white people would make the dogs bite them.
Visitors walk as if on hallowed ground. They touch the stone. They speak with the dead. They come to mourn and remember, memory mixing with grief, making an old ritual new, creating in this time another timeless moment. Seeing this, coming upon it at dawn.
Under the convention, national groups, racial groups, what are called ethnic groups or ethnical groups is the term they use, ethnic groups and religious groups. The groups that have been excluded, which is another entire issue, are political groups and social groups. But the folks in Darfur are protected under the UN Convention.
Now, how does the situation...
I'm not the only one that has felt that through the years. I've thought, you know, what is wrong with me? You know, this was supposed to be the best thing for me. Why am I feeling this way? So it was a relief to know that there were others out there that were feeling the same thing.
So it's pretty obvious, too.
Because I was someone in a wheelchair, she was able to approach me and ask me if I was interested in dancing. Of course, since I danced before I became in a wheelchair, I wanted to learn how to be able to do that in the chair.
Now, what kind of dancing did you do? Was it rock and roll like Craig? Or?
Club dancing, yes, yeah. All night long, yeah. Could take that. And one thing.
Slowly. You start part-time, then you start part-time a few more hours on the weekend, then you build it, and you keep working, and it takes a lot of very hard work to get your breaks.
Okay.
Then you go from like a small station to a bigger station, Kicks 104 weekends. Sometimes you'll work weekends at Kicks 104 for years. I worked here 3 years part-time. Of course, I was in school and I did one full-time, but most of the time when someone works at a really good station like Kicks 104, they don't want to leave, so the job turnover is a lot less than, say, at one of the smaller stations. So it's a lot of work, and it's low pay, and it's crummy hours, but you'll love it.
Yeah, this looks like fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
And I like...
Scarves are one of the most versatile accessories in a woman's wardrobe. They can add pizzazz and excitement to your outfits. Scarves are a relatively inexpensive way of adding a splash of color, style, and texture to your clothes. With the addition of a scarf to your outfit, you can make separates really into a...
One of the nice things about the Unity Church is that we teach and practice meditation,
Yeah.
which is an internal prayer activity which focuses one's mind on disciplining the thoughts and the emotions and looking out at life in an optimistic and hopeful manner.
I'm not the only one. I should say I had every intention bastardize it, actually. Oops, can we say that in your basement?
We can say anything
Okay,
in the
that's
basement.
great. It's going to be a fun show then. It's actually, in sort of, to answer that seriously, which might be the last question I'll answer serious, it's become such a cosmetic word that the word wellness doesn't mean much anymore. I mean, it's sort of this eclectic term that everyone has gotten involved in. But in the pure sense of wellness and wholeness and movement, yeah, that's part of what I would do.
Okay.
Two different cultures that had grown up in the same country, and how they decided to settle their differences by resorting to arms rather than political process. Basically, it was a misunderstanding. It was a tragedy. It was some unfinished business from the Constitutional Convention of the 1780s, and it was a result of a lot of different social forces.
Which is about North and South
Right.
America. The Wilson Quarterly,
Yeah.
which is a little dry.
Right.
But they've got some interesting things in there. Natural history, things like that. Not anything, terribly.
Know you're gonna treat me right. You get me a fever when you hold me tight. A fever in the morning. A fever on the roof. A fever on the roof. A fever on the roof. The night.
There's a variety of different walls we use at public access to build sets with. One of the things I hate is this blue curtain standing behind me. I think that people who use the blue curtain have no imagination and don't respect the audience, especially if you're doing a regular show, because television is a visual medium as well as one that you listen to. So we try to keep that in mind whenever we're making a program. So we build a set, we bring the walls out, and we have boxes of props. We bring the props out, and we put the props on the fireplace, and we put the props on the bookcases or whatever. And it's all done on a volunteer basis. So people work together before the show starts, and they all get together and build a set. Then, the next thing we do is get the crew ready to do the actual taping of the program. And so we have a lot of behind-the-scenes work. We work with the director. We work with the sound people. We work with the cameras. So we work everybody together, and it actually becomes kind of like a musical circus. And everybody gets together, and there's a lot of running around, but people enjoy that kind of thing.
One thing you learn very early on in public access is an essential truth, is that watching it is a window into the soul of Fayetteville, or the soul of any community. And it's truly what you see. Some people turn on TV, and I think this is true for any channel, but I think it's especially true for public access because you know part of your fees from cable go into supporting it. And you turn it on, you see, man, I hate that. That's terrible. What is that doing on my TV? And there's an old joke about the weather in Missouri, and it's this: if you don't like it now, just wait half an hour. So cats like that, and public access is like that. If you don't like what's on now, wait half an hour, because there probably will be something you like. And programming is determined on a first come, first served basis. So people make their shows, and you come down to schedule, you come down to the office and fill out your cablecast request form, and get them to Heather here, who's this is Heather Drain, who's doing our taping today. You give them to her, and she puts them on the schedule. And there's no favoritism involved. And that's how shows, I mean, some shows have a regular time slot, but most shows, you come down, you make your show, and you put it on the time slot. Now, some shows are, for mature audiences, and you mark that in the time slot, and it gets played after midnight. But other shows get played during the week, and new shows get played, 5 times in a 2-week period? So your show will get plenty of airplay. If your new show will get plenty of airplay. But the truth is that there's such a wide variety. It's like a video buffet when you watch public access. You're going to see what you turn on TV today. You're going to see Democracy Now! You'll see Preservation with Paula Marinoni, who's a local preservationist. You'll see a religious program in the afternoon. You'll see a children's show. You'll see a music show. I mean, and in between some shows, you'll see a community message board. And this is just filler. But people in the community come down and put messages on the message board to advertise what their group is doing. And people have always enjoyed that for 30 years. And sometimes they just listen to the music and get the message board on. But people enjoy that service. But there's always, it's like you just turn on TV an hour later, half an hour later, and there'll be something else on. It's not the same type of, in fact, there are no blocks. You don't have like a religious block. You don't have a political block. You don't have a music block. It really is like a video buffet. Okay? Kind of like a video buffet that is being chosen with your eyes closed. So there's no one in the office saying, well, I got to put 4 political shows on in a row. So it really is this video buffet, but you're turning it on every so often. But as a viewer, you're not quite that blind, because you can get copies of the schedule. And you can go to, I'm going to walk across the room here for a second. You can go to www.catfayetteville.org, and the schedule is on there. And if you live out of town, except for North Korea and China, you can watch CAT on television. And the programs are done live. You can't call up shows from the library, but you can watch whatever is playing on CAT at the time. So if you know a certain show's on, just go to the computer and click it on and watch it in the comfort of your home without paying for cable. So anyone in Northwest Arkansas, or anyone, anywhere you go in the country. Because I know that's what people want to do when they go on vacation. Just watch my show. So that's what I do. But this is what, I mean, this is kind of the beauty of it is, and we have a lot of Springdale producers who come down and use CAT. We always have had. A long time ago, CAT public access was outside the city limits of Fayetteville, but there was a contractual thing with Cox, and now it's just in Fayetteville. But now, thanks to the internet, it's actually not limited to Fayetteville, so you can see it anywhere. And a lot of people in the 4-county area come down and use public access, and they find it very freeing. One of the problems you hear a lot is, well, I can't use that equipment. I mean, I can barely program my VCR, let alone my air conditioner. I can't go down to public access, But y'all have cameras, So, but the equipment is horrifically easy to use. I'm very serious. If I could learn how to use this equipment, anyone in this room could learn to use the equipment. And the people who teach the workshops, the people who help you are very patient people, and they help you get anything done. and they will help you from start to finish on your projects. And there is no piece of equipment down there that is too difficult for anyone to learn. And if you just look at the programming, you'll see the amazing talent that people in our area have. And it would just amaze you. But I mean, and some of them are professionals, but some of them, it's just people like me. And, or some of you in the audience have probably produced some stuff for public access. So you never know who's producing this stuff. You can't walk down the street. You can't go to the mall and say, that's a public access producer. You know? Really, you cannot tell by looking at someone. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that ordinary people in your family that you may not even be aware of, have done this stuff. And we have had producers in their early teens to producers all the way up to about 90 years old, and using the station and learning the new equipment. And when I first learned the equipment back in the 1980s, I took classes, and it seemed like the video camera must have been as big as that table, and weighed about 8,000 pounds, I think. And now the cameras are just, well, you see the camera we got right there. So, and it's very easy to come down and learn the equipment. And one of the things I want to just leave everybody with is that one of the reasons I think that public access is so important to any community, not just Fayetteville, but to any community that can swing it into any people in the community that might be considering public access, is that opens a window for the rest of the community. And I hate words like empower, even though because of my political writing and all my life, I actually use the word empower. And I'm surrounded by people who empower me and empower other people, and I empower other people, but I hate that word. But public access television empowers people, and we do. And we open doors for people, and we show people how to open the window to show other people how their lives are. And you can show other people what your thoughts are and how you feel about things. But just getting away from serious stuff, you just have a song to sing. You can come down to public access. If you want to practice your career as a comedian, you come down to public access. And you can do it in the studio, where we're not going to have an audience full of hecklers. So you come down and do it there, you know. So I practice my comedy routines down there sometimes. And we have this program called Short Takes, in which anyone in the community can come down and speak in front of a camera for up to 5 minutes. And it's done twice a week. It's edited to a longer program. It gets shown several times during the week. And it's a program that's been as long as the station's been around. And it's free to anyone in the community. In fact, you don't have to learn to use any equipment. If you just have something to say, and you just have this overpowering need, when you get up tomorrow morning, and you read the paper, and you got something you want to say, or you wrote a song last night, or you wrote a limerick, or you want to just say something and give a tribute to someone, you can come down to CAT and sit in front of the camera and do this. And it's a free service, and it's a wonderful thing. And I know I speak like an evangelist when I talk about public access, but I've been around it for so long. This is really, I think, how most of us who are involved in public access are. We do evangelize a lot, and we try to bring other people into our cult. And I hope today that I might have inspired one or two of you to check us out. At least check us out on the internet. So, are there any questions? Al?
Do you know how long public access TV in the country's been around? I mean, when and how or why it started?
I think since the 1960s, since the 1970s.
Kind of just the civil rights movement, those kinds of things. So, democratization of the airwaves?
Yes, yes. And of course, the sad truth is a lot of public access stations are dying across the country. Because people are looking at YouTube and they're saying, oh, YouTube, you can just put stuff on YouTube, but they don't see the value of public access in the community, of course, with money being stretched tight. So yeah, it came about in the 70s, which is why Fayetteville was able to tap into that. And there was a law that said if a community wants public access, the city has to provide it for them.
So are there channels, public access channels all over the country?
Yes, there are.
Is there any place that, has worked wonderfully, or some place that hasn't worked well, or do you know?
Well, I'll tell you why it works well. And Fayetteville's an example of why it works well. Because you have to keep your links to the community. Now I tell you also why it works badly and why stations fall. It's because some stations don't keep their links to the community. And I've met a lot of these people from stations, and they get kind of snobby. I knew people in one station in California were charging up to $100 an hour to use their station. And so people in the community just could not come in and use it. And some stations were just a message board all day long, where all they were interested in showing was government channel meetings, and they weren't really interested in classes of the community, they weren't really interested in bringing people in. And so when you watch the channel, it's better than trazodone. I mean, you don't need a sleeping pill. You don't need that's what helps you fall asleep. And when their funding is threatened at the city council level, they can't bring in droves of people because nobody supports them. Now, every time public access in Fayetteville and other cities who keep their links to the community, every time that's threatened, you get hundreds of people who will call, email, their elected officials, and will actually show up at city council meetings and say, no, this service is important. And that's why that works. New York City is a place where it really works well. Chicago, San Francisco, places where they've learned the benefit of saying, well, we are partners with people in the community, and we want people to come in. You know, places that they have no concept of, or they're too shy, or they're kind of snobby. Places where they don't keep the links to humanity. And that's what it's all about. It's all about humanity. Places where they don't keep the links to people. Those are the stations that fall by the wayside. And really, the town's better off without the stations, because if you're not there for the people, you know, what are you there for? So, I think you had a question back here?
It was kind of along the same lines. I remember the story that they passed this law that communities had to be allowed the chance to have a public access station, and Fayetteville immediately jumped on that.
Okay.
So my question was, and I've heard this before, that it's actually one of the oldest stations, public access stations in the country.
Yes, one of the oldest, yeah. Oh, well, technically, public access in Fayetteville is one of the oldest systems. Now, we're on our second public access station, because we started with Fayetteville Open Channel back in 1980, and we had the Great Access War back in 1991-92, where we almost lost public access. And then out of that came Access for Fayetteville, which changed its name to Community Access Television a few years later. But public access in Fayetteville is one of the oldest in the country. Some people say we're the oldest, but we're not. But we're one of the oldest continuing systems in the country. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Didn't originally the feds help fund part of your expenditures, and then when they passed the laws, when they withdrew their funds, and you had to go into fundraising by the community?
I think they did, yes, ma'am. I mean, I wasn't involved in the station that early, but I think they did, yes, ma'am.
Back in the 79, 80?
Yeah, back when Mary Norton was helping shepherd the station too, yes.
What kind of, have there been issues of attempted or outright censorship?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Politics.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, somebody brought down, I'll tell you what's funny, somebody brought down a nudism video once, and actually the president of the CAP board and the president of the Fayetteville Cable Board, which was what was called before Telecom Board, actually prevailed upon me to heavily edit this nudism video. You know? As far as anybody in the audience was concerned, nobody was actually naked at a nudist camp. You know? That's how heavily I edited it, and I shouldn't have done it. But, it was a pretty innocuous video anyway, but there have been attempts at censorship. There's really been, you know, some stations across the country, there have been some outrageous stuff that has run. But again, outrageous stuff runs after midnight. You get calls and say, my 3-year-old girl was watching this show at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she was watching it for like 7 hours, you know, and then we taped it and we watched it for another 14. I'm going, okay, you know. But what's your kid watching TV for at 1 o'clock in the morning? But all the adult shows run after midnight. So.
Who makes that decision? Who makes those decisions?
There's a cablecast request form when you turn on your show, and you mark on there, is this for mature audiences?
Do you define that by language, violence, sexual content?
That's really up to the producer. It's an honor system, and it's worked really well. Yes, sir.
Have you seen a difference in the producer skill level since home production is so easy now. Consumer level equipment and computer editing has improved. Have producers taken advantage of that or learned from it?
Honestly, as far as skill level goes, more producers are able to edit their stuff at home. But skill level is always going to be really high because they edit at home and edit at the station. So as far as what you see on the screen, you always have to look at things as a consumer too. When you turn on TV, you cannot tell whether it's been edited at home or edited on the computer, if they do it really well. If they do it badly, it doesn't matter if they did it at the station or did it at home. You're just going to say, this person's kind of lazy. They didn't really put a lot of thought into their product. But if a person is really careful, if a person has good standards for themselves, you can't tell whether it was done on the computer or done at the station. And as far as, no, I don't know if I think maybe their personal skill levels are better because they're doing it at home. But as far as professionalism, I think certainly if you watch stuff in the 80s, we didn't have really great equipment. So there's a certain...
Or hair, or clothes.
That's true. We try to edit all that stuff out, bad hair and clothes. But you could see, as the years go by, you could see how things have changed because we're getting new equipment in. But I think people always brought a high level of enthusiasm and tried to be as professional as possible given what they have. So I don't know if that really answered that question very well.
Well, I was just saying that a lot of teenagers now are starting off, preteens,
Yeah.
editing home movies at home.
Yeah.
So they're learning a lot of the editing skills
Yeah.
and the pacing and,
Yeah.
and timing and everything. I was wondering if that was starting to carry over into the production yet.
Well, it does. I mean, because people watch what they do. When I taught classes years ago, I would always tell people, if you want to make TV, you have to watch TV. And I think that one of the worst mistakes anybody ever does. So yeah, there are people watching that, and they're watching what they do, and it's carrying over to other people who are watching that and learning from it. One of the worst things, I think, are people who come down and they sort of brag they don't own a TV, and they're going to make a show. Well, their show kind of looks like it came from Sedalia, Missouri in 1963. So if you want to make a show, if you want to make TV, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to walk and count again after saying this. If you want to make a show, if you want to make TV, you have to watch TV, and you have to emulate what works. And I think these young kids are really learning. They're watching and they're learning, and they're experimenting. And I think that's really important. And I think people who don't experiment, who don't learn from other people who are really good at what they do, I think their stuff is always going to be kind of like down there on the professional level. Yes, sir.
Can you describe some of the equipment that's available for use down there? You've told us that it's really easy to use, but what are we talking about? Yes.
Well, we have this beautiful camera, which unfortunately will not show up on the program. We have this camera, which you can take classes to learn how to use this camera. We have the basic editing classes. I'm sorry, what?
Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut Pro. It just went out of my head right there. Well, we have the basic editing classes, and it's very easy to use on the computers that you can come down and learn on.
And that's free, or is that cost?
You have to take classes, so you have to pay for those.
Okay. Does Nielsen or other kind of ratings, demographic things include public access TV?
No, thank God. You think my show would still be on after 19 years if we paid attention to ratings? No, I mean this frees us actually, because you don't have to pay attention to ratings, because all you're interested in is doing your show and doing as good a job as possible. If you're worried about ratings, you're always, it's like this monster is over your shoulder and it's watching you, and you're second guessing yourself all the time. So you don't have to do that. So you're just concentrating on doing the Al Lord show. Yeah. And you just want the Al Lord show to get as good as you can get. And that's all you want to work on. And ratings, I mean, I can see why ratings are important for commercial TV, but really For public access TV, no. I mean, not having ratings frees us, and it gives you a lot of freedom to just work on your show. Because if we did think about by ratings, we'd say, well, your show doesn't have the percentage points, so we're going to take you off the air, and you know. Yeah.
But do folks who oversee public access TV here or otherwise, do they look at numbers, or is there a way to get audience numbers of people watching this, or how do they?
This is how we know about numbers. Word of mouth. And really, honestly, by people who recognize the station. I'm going to tell you something else too. The truth about public access is this: no matter where you are in the country, it's always going to be a continuing educational process. No matter if your station has been in the community for like 100 years, there's always going to be a sizable number of people in the community who don't know what you do or what you are. So it's always educational. You have to go out in the community. You always have to teach people about what you do, how you can come down, what kind of programs you have. You have to, now it's not the station put out a schedule, but the producers promote their own programs. So sometimes you might have 5 people watch a show, sometimes you might have 500 people watch a show. It's impossible to know how many people are watching a show. And maybe for ego purposes, it's good that you don't know how few. I mean, you want to know when you have a lot of people watching your show, but you really don't want to know when you only got 3 people watching your show. So we know that people watch. Bear in mind, in a situation like this, most of what you're going to hear are complaints. People rarely call up and say, man, that was a great show last night on the nature walks. No, they're going to call and say, man, that was a really bad show I saw last night. You know, that really offended me. That's what usually calls about. So if all you collected were the complaints, you know, no, that's, you know, but you know that people are watching because people come down and use the station and people talk about what they see on the air, and people recommend to others that they come down not only to use public access, but that they actually come on public access and use it to talk about what is important to them. Yes, ma'am.
I don't quite understand where you get your funding from. Do y'all fall underneath the city of Fayetteville, or do you get your funding from community donations?
It's partially from, well, most of it comes from what you pay into your cable fee. And that goes into the general fund, and we get a portion of that. You know, goes into the franchise fee from cable. And we do actually get money from donations too. But, you know, I mean, every nonprofit fights for, you know, so, you know, it's hard to, I mean, we'd like to get more money in donations, so we're going to lock the doors here today. And no one's going to be allowed to leave until we get some money. But no, I mean, we do take charitable donations, but most of it comes from the franchise fee. Anyone else? I could talk for another 4 or 5 hours.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Are you generating program as we speak?
This is a program that will run on CAT.
Okay.
You're thinking about it, I can tell.
In fact, I have some short forms here on shortcakes if anybody would like to know about them. Know about the times and, you know. Thank you all for having me. I enjoyed this very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the American Postal Workers Union handle more than 165 billion letters and packages a year. That's about 34 million pounds of mail every day. Ever wonder what this costs you as a taxpayer? Millions? Tens of millions? Hundreds of millions? Not a single cent. The United States Postal Service doesn't run on your tax dollars. It's funded solely by stamps and postage. Brought to you by the men and women of the American Postal Workers Union.
Every time you smoke, there's a toxic mix of over 7,000 chemicals coming for you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Terry, and you're watching Fayetteville Public Television.
Good job.
This particular painting, I believe, came out of the idea of tension. When it was choreographed, if you will, what was behind it was the feeling of pushing and pulling and stress and tension, but at the same time the need hold on to one another, to touch one another, to feel our humanity, if you will. And the models did that. They moved into that position. That's how they interpreted this need, this struggle. I believe I see it. What I'm doing is taking what I believe to be a universal situation, the situation that we're in as a world, as a human population, in that we are in many wars, or involved in many wars and in a lot of strife, nationally, internationally, on a local level, and on a personal level. But at the same time, as human beings, we have the need to reach out to one another and to make ourselves more human, or somehow create and recreate the idea of what it is to be human, using history, but also creating perhaps a new reality of what it is to be human, what it is to be important to one another, that we need one another. And through this need and through this touch, that we can learn to respect and truly respect one another. I want my art to be large because at this point in my life, what's important to me is dealing with, again, the human condition and realizing that by respecting that condition, that perhaps we can change basic elemental things about our reality, our society, our system, so that it is more equal. And as we do that, we can create a dynamic international policy that also recognizes all people as important and justified, and hopefully will help create a situation that will eliminate the need for war, imperialism, oppression, bad working conditions, inhuman working conditions, inhuman living conditions in our own country that need to be recognized, that we all feel and we all love, and we're all very fragile, and that we need to recognize this and create human policies in our country that recognize this, and hopefully help pull our people out of poverty and out of need and out of hunger, and create better institutions for all of us. And that's what I'm trying to find a way with my visual vocabulary to express these really deep feelings that I have, and that's what I try to work with consistently, is perfecting that vocabulary, or at least having that vocabulary truly integrated with what I believe is important to me. Thank you very much.
This poem is called Not What I Imagined, and it is for Stephen. I await the spinning of the wheel. This is not what I imagined. This is not what I had planned. I've been saving bottles of peroxide and henna, blue dye and strawberry gold. I wanted our balding gray heads to spout outrageous burps of color, the blooms of gaudy flowers. I wanted to be shocking in my old age, and I wanted you to show me how. You drove by my house last night. I know it was you. I recognized those hot pink tail fins, dragging after your Cadillac like Isidora's scarves. You had the radio turned up so loud that the dogs howled and the music ruffled up my sleep. I think it was a funky salsa. I know it was the blues. They said he rocked you like a baby while you were cruising through the void, that you parted them veils as easy as a hot knife parts butter, that you slipped out that door with barely a hidey-do, and that you left him holding shadow when he thought he was holding you. Next month, I bet you'll pop into my dreams. Maybe it'll be the dream where I rob that cowboy in the tight-fitting jeans, or the one where I sprout wings and fly solo over the Sea of Cortez. But there you'll be, grinning like the devil, flirting with my heroes, and I'll know once again that this is not what I imagined. This is not what I had planned. I wanted to be shocking in my old age, and you were supposed to show me how. Thank you.
A player's rundown of the game. Sex is a game. It can be played using highballs and lipstick, handicaps, tip-offs and annies, passes, touchdowns, home runs, fresh powder, strategy, strength, and a good eye. Players are allowed to play indoors, in fields, or in the road. They are not required to stay in bounds. The score is kept, and everyone is a referee. Nobody is benched for missing practice, but all who show for the game should be pumped up, enthusiastic, with a sincere belief that sex is good, clean fun, that sex is not essential like sleep, dreaming, food, or communion.
Politics in general and jobs that don't pay enough, 40-hour work weeks, books full of boring stuff, schools that should teach but kids don't learn a thing. These are a few of my least favorite things. Healthcare that won't heal and how people treat the earth, paying tolls and taxes, disbelief in self-worth, bitter cold winters that cut into spring. These are a few of my least favorite things. Religions that claim they're true, don't get me started. Standards that double and people cold-hearted. Judgment and bias when freedom don't ring. These are a few of my least favorite things. All the lying, all the killing, when I'm depressed and sad. I add that to all of my least favorite things, and then I feel really bad. Feel like Julie Andrews or something.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
In these turbulent times, let us not erode the liberties our country was built on.
Let it shine.